Hey, what is up YouTube? Today we're going to be installing a Rekluse Radius CX clutch in a 2015 KTM 250SX. This is a CSS style KTM Husqvarna clutch, so it should be the same for those bikes of that vintage. And it's a pretty simple, straightforward process, but I'll walk you through the basics of it so you can not be intimidated when you try and do it on your own bike. So first things first, undo the brake bolt, and then undo the spring from the lever, and then you're gonna take the bolts out of your clutch cover because we're not going to be using the original clutch cover. We have a Rekluse one, and then relocate the bolts into their proper spots on the engine case so you don't drop them somewhere. That's kind of a pro tip when you're working in the field out here on a gravel road with a piece of cardboard on it. So anyway, if you don't have a fancy shop, and you can tell that I don't, we're just gonna do it this way. So next step, we're going to pull the pressure plate off. We're going to remove the clutch springs, and I'm just going to use this here handy dandy KTM toolkit one with an 8mm, and we're going to pop all those out so that we can remove the old clutch pack. So now we've got all the clutch springs removed. We'll check those because I'm going to try and do this all one-handed for the camera. We're going to remove your old pressure plate. Pull out all the locating pins so that you can get the clutch out. It makes it a little bit easier. I can't show you with two hands, so I'm just holding my iPhone. Oops, don't drop them on the floor either. Alright, so honestly, since we're taking out the inner hub and stuff on this particular install, these clutch plates are a real pain in the ass to get out because you can't get your fingers down in there. So I took most of them out, and make sure that we take the throw out, and make sure that nothing falls off of this thing or whatever, and put it in a very safe place because this is very important. Next step, to get the hub off, we need to bend down these two tabs. So we're going to use a large screwdriver and a little mallet to tap those down flat so that we can take the nut off the hub. So now we got the tabs bent down. It's not hard to do. You just there's a little bit of extra tab hanging over the side, and so you approach it with the screwdriver at this angle. Just give it a little tap, and then get something a little bit flatter and just tap them down from there. You don't have to pound them completely flat. The nut will turn if they're not totally flat. So this is really only the tricky part about this, or the place that you need a special tool. To get the nut off, you'll need a little impact like this. One of these little tiny baby ones works just fine, 27mm, and you just make sure that you have the bike in high gear too, so you can stop stuff from spinning in the engine. I should have told you that before we started. But yeah, once you give it a couple little buzzes, it comes right off. So now that the hub is loose, you can just pull it off with the remaining couple clutch plates that were kind of a pain in the butt there. It'll just lift right off the shaft, and then all you have is your clutch basket. So pay attention when you're removing the hub, because you're going to need this thrust washer, and they stick to the back of the hub. So make sure that you take the thrust washer off, because we're going to be reusing that on the Rekluse hub. Okay, take your old clutch, hub, and pressure plate, springs, everything. Screw it all together into a big clutch pack like this, and that's all you're going to do. Put it into the supplied plastic bag, and store it away until you go to sell your bike and give it to them. This is also a good opportunity to start soaking your clutch plates. So now we're back here to just our plain old basket again. We're taking the OEM thrust washer, and we're dropping it back down. Make sure that you got that on. And we're using the Rekluse hub. Slide the Rekluse hub on. Alright, she's all good to go. Tab washer, we're going to use a Rekluse supplied one. Installed a Rekluse before, but I've never installed one of theirs. So we're going to put that on there, and we're going to tighten down our nut. And we're going to torque this properly, and we're going to bend up these tabs with a pair of channel locks. So we have the bike in gear. You can't quite tighten this down yet though. We need to lock it so that we can torque it correctly. And all you got to do is just wedge a screwdriver in between your train, or put a rag in there. Some people might flame me for that, but anyway, we need to lock the hub so that we can torque this down correctly without things spinning inside. So the hub is torqued up, and we need to bend these tabs over with a pair of channel locks. Hopefully yours are a little less rusty than this. That's my friend's garage here, so I'm using his tools. But yeah, I just bend these tabs up. They're real simple. Just bend them up flat so that the nut doesn't come loose and explode your clutch all over the place. Okay, everything is bent up. We're gonna put back the drive pins, locating pins, into the clutch. And next on the agenda is putting the clutch in. So the 6 locating pins are in place, and we're going to install a steel drive plate first. So line them up and slide it on, and we need the shark fin looking things going to the right, to the front of the bike. So shark fin things, front of the bike. So that should fall into place. After we install the steel plate down at the bottom with the shark fins forward and make sure that they're on the locating pins, drive pins, we're going to install one of our torque drive clutch plates on top of that. And make sure that you get them into the deep basket grooves. There's multiple grooves in the basket. You can see the shallower ones. We want to be into the deep basket grooves. Follow the friction with another steel, and we're going to do that until it's full, and we're going to end on a steel disc because we're going to put the core EXP disc on top of that, and so we need to end with a steel disc. So if you don't end with the steel disc, you did it wrong. Okay, now we've got the complete clutch pack in there. We're going to install our EXP disc. And remember, we're ending on a steel, and our EXP disc is going to sit on top of that. So everything's in place. Install the throw out. So now we have our new hub, and we have this little liner disc, and we're going to get some oil on that liner disc. And we're going to add it to the hub, one-handed like, and we're going to make sure that it goes into those locating positions right there. So we have the liner disc on the new outside hub, put an oil in there, and that will help it so we can drop it on top of the clutch pack. You can see the liner disc, the locating things are in the holes. We're going to slide it over the spring holes, just like this. Next, we're going to be installing the springs. Drop the Rekluse supplied springs into the holes. Yeah, aren't they pretty? Nice shiny red. Now add the Rekluse supplied screw sleeves. Pro tip: if it doesn't look like this is interfacing correctly and it's sloppy, it's just because the pressure in the master cylinder hasn't been pushed out by the throw out. So if you, for peace of mind, if you push on the pressure plate, you'll see that the slack, and it will interface closely with the clutch. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the throw out hasn't pushed the pressure in the hydraulics on the other side. We got all the clutch springs installed. Torque them to 9 foot-pounds, or check your manual or whatever Rekluse manual to make sure of that. I'm just going by what's in the torque specs here. But yeah, just tighten those all down, and now we're going to work on the slave cylinder. So the process with the slave cylinder, to bleed this out, we need to get all the air out of this. You're going to back the screw out. It'll be counterclockwise, I guess, until you can see the rubber O-ring. And then we're going to push the piston in until it bottoms out with our thumbs. And we're going to suck oil into this by repeating this process several times until there's no bubbles in it. So I can't film that because I've only got one hand, but back it out, push it in, fill it up, screw it in, back it out, push it in, fill it up, screw it in. That's the process until no more bubbles come out. Alright, next install the Rekluse supplied clutch cover. Reinstall the brake lever spring. Next, take off your chain guard. It requires a 10mm bolt in the back behind here, and this 8. And then we're going to loosen the banjo here on the slave cylinder. So next we install the slave cylinder. Use the supplied paper gasket, and there's an O-ring on the inside. You do not use this diaphragm O-ring on the old one. So throw all of this out and use only the supplied Rekluse stuff. Unless there's no O-ring on your bike, which there should be, then use your original O-ring, but Rekluse does supply one. Okay, slave cylinder is installed. We just installed the bottom 2 bolts because this one is going to be for the chain guide. We've got the brand new copper washers in there, and now we're just going to bleed it just like we would a set of brakes, but it's the clutch. So we go to the master cylinder and fill it up, and then just bleed this out like a brake. I'm not going to show you how to do that.